Welcome to the Empowerment Show with Melissa Heisler. Every week, discover new personal choices with practical, inspiring guides. And now, here's Melissa.
Welcome to the Empowerment Show. I'm Melissa Heisler, Empowerment Coach at It's My Life, and it is your life. Live it. Today, I will be talking with author, writer, and cancer survivor Devon Volkel about hope, determination, and recovery. Well, welcome to the show, Devon.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. You have such an interesting story. It could seem to be tragic, but it sounds like you've had a huge turnaround. So what I'd love to do is have you start off by telling us a little bit about the trauma you experienced before you turned 30. I think the first incident you experienced revolved around your son.
Yes, it did.
Can you tell us a little bit about what happened and what you learned from this experience?
Yes, my son he never moved in utero. I never felt him move, and I would look forward to my prenatal appointments to hear his heartbeat. I didn't have the best insurance in the world, so I was seen by, it just wasn't the best care. And one doctor, he was very insensitive. He poked his head in my room at about 28 weeks and asked me if my son was breech or if anyone thought he was. And then he left the room, and I panicked, and I refused to see him again. And I found out it was going to be okay. And then at 38 weeks, he was the only attending physician, asked me if anyone figured out if he was breech or not. And I said no. And they found out that he was, and I went in for a version, which is a manual attempt to turn him in the womb, and they found out he was out like a frog. His arms and legs were out like a frog instead of in the fetal position. And so the next day I went into labor, and they had to do a C-section. They pulled him out, and he wasn't breathing right. They let me kiss him, and then they whisked him away, and I didn't get to see him until he was like 3 hours old, and he was hooked up to a ventilator, and then they figured out that they broke his femur and when they pulled him out. And so he was, no one could tell me what was wrong with him. They had him on a fentanyl drip for the femur break, and then this other insensitive neonatologist told me that he wasn't acting like a normal baby, and he was on a fentanyl drip. And so I was like, okay. And then she waited till everyone was gone to tell me that she thought my son would die. He wouldn't make it off the ventilator. And I cried harder than I've ever cried, and I let her tell my family, and then I was like, no, he's going to live. And this fight rose up in me, and I was like, no, he's not going to die. My family was going to go say goodbye to him, and I was like, don't you dare go in there and say goodbye. He's going to live. He's going to make it. He's going to be fine. And 2 days later, they accidentally extubated him when putting him on my chest, and he was still weak. He didn't move around a lot like a normal baby. He went, he was there for a month. He went home on oxygen. And at 1.5 years, he was diagnosed with congenital myopathy. And that is just a broad sense of a term for a muscle disorder. They want us to get a muscle biopsy to figure out what exactly it is. But he's been getting stronger and stronger. I mean, he's 5 now, and he can walk with the aid of, like crutches and a walker, and he can walk, if his hands are on his knees, but he's not as strong as other kids.
It must have been a very difficult time for you to go through, and it sounded like, unfortunately, the medical profession wasn't as supportive as they could have been through the process. But it sounds like your son is very stable now, and he's working very well with the limitations that he has with the myopathy that he has, correct?
Yes.
Well, that's a beautiful blessing. Unfortunately, your experience is that your son Gage was not the only one who had some medical issues. After that happened with your son, I believe you had an experience with leukemia.
I did, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. When 2 months after Gage's father, Dustin, and I wed, we got pregnant, and I just wanted them to take better care of that baby than they did with Gage, and so I went to see a specialist, and he had me do some blood work, and my counts were dangerously low. My husband and I had to go to the oncologist. I didn't even know who it was. There was just cancer everywhere on the walls, on the building, and I was like really scared, and he told me that I had leukemia, and I had to go down to Denver, which is about an hour away from where I live, to for a month to undergo intensive chemotherapy. And he sent me to Denver because they wanted to see if they could try and save the baby. But I was only 11 weeks, and I was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, which the acute means that it moves really, really, really fast, and there was no way that they could save me and the baby. We would both die. So I had to send my baby back to heaven. But I think it was a girl, and I think she was sent to my side long enough to save me. She came down because I never would have gone to the doctor for my symptoms. They were just pregnancy symptoms. I was tired and weak and nauseous, and the only thing that was weird was that I had gigantic bruises all over me, and I had these red little dots all over my legs. And when I was diagnosed, my platelets were around 8,000, which a normal person is anywhere from 120 to 160,000. And if I had waited to get my blood work done or anything, I would have died without nobody would have known. And so I spent a month in the hospital, and I underwent chemotherapy. I shaved my head because the chemo was going to take my hair, and it ended up growing back for 6 months, and then it finally fell out. But I just got done with treatment on March 11th. I had to do 2.5 years of chemotherapy.
Well, and are you free and clear for the most part now?
Yes, I went into remission in the Denver hospital in 2011, and I have been in remission ever since. I still have to get blood work done and bone marrow biopsies to make sure it's still gone. But after 5 years of being done with treatment, I will be deemed cured of my cancer.
Well, then I'm looking forward to that day for you. And I'm blown away with the peace that you have in regards to having to make the choice in regards to your pregnancy during this illness. How did that clarity come to you? Or do you know how you got to that point? Or
it was like, it was very, I can talk about it without crying now. It was very hard decision, but I looked at it as when I had Gage, Dusty and my husband and I had gotten pregnant before, and I lost the baby, and when I said goodbye, I was like, I knew it was him, and I was like, he'll come back to me when I'm ready. Mm-hmm. And then he did. And then with this one, it was like, I know that she came to me long enough to save me because I wouldn't have gone to the doctor for any other reason. And so she came to my side long enough to save me, and I know that she'll return. So that's how I kind of had peace with it, because it wasn't right. It wasn't the right time. I know she'll come back to me in the future when the cancer's completely gone and I'm, completely healthy again. So that's kind of how I looked at it. And, I had to do this, and I had to be strong, and I had to do the things I needed to do, because I do have an angel on earth, Gage, and that's my son, and he needs a mom. He needs his mom, and that's where my fight came from. Is I'm not done with this world yet. I'm staying, and Gage needs a mom. So that's kind of where my strength comes from, I guess.
And my understanding is part of your strength too is, or what kept you in this more positive life, or help you get to this more positive viewpoint, was your writing. Has that always been with you, or was that something that came up through all these challenges that you've had?
My writing's always been with me. I've been writing poetry since I was 12. My parents got divorced, and poetry found me, and I just started writing, and it was like an outlet. So I always had poetry, and then I wrote my book, which is Aura. I wrote that back in 2010. I just got an idea, and I had written things before. I wrote like pop-up books in grade school, and I wrote a big, huge report on Bonnie and Clyde that was more like a novel to graduate high school. And so I've dabbled in, being an author, writing books and stories before, but this idea came to me, and I was like, okay, I wrote it down, and it made sense. And then when I went to write it, it just fell out of me into like 3 books, and I was like, wow, the story was given to me by something greater than myself, because it was meant to be told. But when I was going through my cancer, and there were so many dark corners that I lived in, with being faced with, is it coming back? Oh, my counts are dropped. They're not coming back up. Oh my God, am I going to have to go through this again? I would go back to my first book, and I'd write, I just fix it. I rewrote it and just spent so much time in that story that it saved me from a lot of the dark places I could have gone to.
And that's such a powerful image, a powerful story that you provided, because part of your courage to move forward through all of this was to take care of your son, that he needed you, but not that the book was a distraction, but that it was actually almost an angel for you as well, that it was given to you, and being able to focus on that versus focusing just on the illness was really a rescue tool for you.
Yes, it was.
And it's also a big turnaround for you, because I believe on your 30th birthday, it was your first book was picked up, A Witch's Aura, was picked up by a publisher. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Which is fabulous. And hopefully there's some plans in place for the other two books for you as well.
Oh, yes, there's going to be 5 in the series. 3 are written right now. The second one we're going to begin editing next month. But the 5th one keeps growing in my head, so there might actually be 6 if it keeps growing.
Okay. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about A Witch's Aura, which is the first, and it's intended for a teen audience. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And I guess, can you tell us a little bit about the plot line? And then I believe that there's also a deeper message in the book that we can get into as well.
Yes. The book is actually based around a young girl named Shade. She reaches her 16th birthday, and a family secret is revealed to her that both explains and complicates her life. Things that have seemed strange all her life begin to make sense, and she embraces the new knowledge wholeheartedly. She's actually finding out that she's magical. She's a witch. She comes from a long line of them. And so her only regret being that this new knowledge may threaten her new relationship with, it's her very first love. His name is Cruz Wright, and they just feel this connection that is deeper than the world. They can't understand it. And as their relationship develops, Shade struggles how to reveal to him her true nature, but she's unaware that the effect of this revelation would be more monumentous and potentially devastating than she ever imagined. So the real question is if she can uphold the destiny bestowed on her by her ancestors, or will her love for Cruz ultimately destroy her?
So it sounds like I think there's a lot of books right now. It's kind of exciting that this idea that individuals, that the teens are very special, that there's something unique about them. And so I think that kind of gets into the storyline that you're telling, but it also sounds like there's a very large conflict that the Shade is brought into being able to make a very mature choice of her history and her family line versus a love that's presented to her.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a deeper message that you have for this book or for the series of books? Is there something that you want people to walk away with?
There is. My message, the reason why I wrote the book, the story came to me, but the reason why I wanted to write this book, because I am Wiccan. I am just, Wiccans are the biggest tree huggers you'll ever meet. And, there are dark pagans, but as far as Wicca is concerned, we're all good. We're very good people, and we come with a very bad stereotype. And I was reading a book that was about witches, and they were just awful and horrible and mean and nasty. And, And I was like, you know what, I just want to write a book about good witches that do good for humanity. And so the witches in my story are just the amazing good deeds. They do good things for humanity just because they want to, not because they gain anything out of it. And I think the big meaning is for people not to judge so quickly, learn about something before you go and just, believe this stereotype that is so horrible. It's hard to be a Wiccan this day and age because people think that so many bad things about me, and it's like, I just want to do good. I don't like hurting anything. I don't even like killing spiders. I hate spiders, but I don't like killing them. I don't like harm to anything. And that's like the one rule about Wicca is harm none. If it harms none, do as you will. And that's like what I want people to just understand, and research a little bit before judge. And that comes with any kind of faith, any kind of person, any kind of, the whole, everything that's going on in the world today, with marriage not being equal. It's like, I just want everything to be equal. I want everything to be fair. And, I don't want people to just judge off of something that they really don't know anything about.
I think that's such a great point. I think there's so much fear and hatred that is unfortunately in the world right now because of not having information, jumping to conclusions, judging off what our parents thought before, making assumptions, and that's what causes the conflict. And to be able to be much more open. There was a quote I saw the other day by Marie Curie, and I can't recall it all, but it was basically don't fear, but seek to understand. And I think if we try to understand what we think is different versus fearing and attacking what is different, that can make all the difference.
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that's the main problem with the world today is just not understanding and just, like you said, going off of what people before us thought. It's like, dare to be different, change the way you think, change the way you see the world, and the world will change with you,
Absolutely. Let's give people here a chance. Can you just give us a minute or two on how you define Wicca for you so that we can have an understanding and not make assumptions?
Yeah, of course. Wicca is, it's very, very earth-based faith. I believe in a higher power, but I don't believe in, a God sitting. I don't believe in the one God. I believe in God and goddesses and powers that be. The world, the earth is such an amazing anomaly. If you really look into how everything has to be perfectly, the chemicals in the sky have to be perfectly in balance for us to have an atmosphere to sustain life on Earth. I just think Earth is such a miracle in everything that she does, and that's what Wicca and all of our celebrations are based on. The cycles of nature and the four seasons. There's a lot of different Wiccans that are very like the high priestesses and stuff that are very in tune to every single aspect of it. I'm more I believe in I believe in the earth, and I believe in the miracle of the earth and the changes in the seasons and herbs, and we believe in spells. It's basically giving to the energy at work, and that's what, going back to my book, is like you learn to manipulate the energy around you. Also auras, everyone has an aura, and what an aura is that it's the energy that you carry around yourself. And so if you're a negative Nancy, you're going to pull negative energy to you, and bad things are going to happen. But if you, just like all my experiences, you stay positive, you believe that things are meant to be for a reason, and just kind of see the positive in everything, you draw positive things to you. And so it's just basically about energy and the cycles, and, we don't like hurting anything. I mean, I can't even kill a spider, like I said. I mean, we believe in all beings should be released from suffering in any type, shape, or form. No one should have to suffer, and that's for nothing, no one and nothing, even the the little guys, like the ants, and, just everything that Earth gives to us. We just want to be, protective of it. And so it's a very positive thing. And that's why it's bad that people think that we, I don't even know what they think about us, but we're the ultimate tree huggers, really. I mean, that's kind of what it all boils down to.
Yes, and we could, if we had more time, we could go into the history of why that viewpoint was made. I think there's a lot of power when we respect the earth and see all the magic it's doing. And there's so much power that is available to us. I just got back from Panama, and we went to a thermal spring. That this hot geyser, the spring that comes out of the mountain, is helping people with arthritis. There's such power in nature that we're not tapping into, and I think that has been hidden so much from society because it scares the powers that be. But like I said, that's a whole other story that we're not going to get into today. But I appreciate you sharing where Wicca comes from, because I think there's so many of us that just have the witch's costume from Halloween in mind, or the bad witch from Wizard of Oz as our viewpoint. And it's very, very different mentality within your belief system. And like you said, you're tree huggers. And a very peaceful group.
Yes, it is. I've been Wiccan for, as long as I can remember, and I kind of was in the proverbial broom closet, if you will. And I was scared to come out of it because of people, I have family that are, they have different religions and different views on the world. And I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified to come out of the broom closet. And then, you know what, one day with my wedding, I had a hand fasting ceremony, and that was kind of me emerging from the broom closet. And now it's like, it feels so good to just be, me and say, yes, I'm Wiccan. I'm good. If you want to judge me, that's your choice, but you shouldn't, because I'm a very good person.
Well, and that's very important. If they're judging, it's their issue, and there's a fear that they have on their side. It is not about you, and I think that's a really good message for people as well. As it's so important to be yourself and not to change who that self is for anyone else.
Exactly.
So where can people learn more about your book, A Witch's Aura, and about you?
You can Google my name. It's Devon Volkel, and the book is titled A Witch's Aura. You can find me on Facebook. It's www.facebook.com/awitchesaura, all one word. And there's links from there. I have links to everything. You can kind of just go from there, and that's where you can find me on Twitter and my publisher. They're Penrose Publishing. You can find me on their site. My book is available on Amazon. You can order it. If you have a Kindle or a Nook, you can order, the electronic version, but they also have paperback available, so you can order it online as well from Amazon or from Penrose Publishing. They also have it on barnesandnoble.com as well, and also Smashwords. And all the links are available on Facebook. You just click one, and that'll take you to another one that has like 5 more different links, so you can just start at Facebook.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much for that information. Thank you for sharing your story today, and wishing you and your son the best of health and the very best for this book and all your upcoming books.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Melissa. Wonderful.
Join Melissa Heisler next week right here at The Empowerment Show. Join the conversation at facebook.com/The Empowerment Show or twitter.com/Empowerment Show.